The H1B Guy here just dropped a new post on the H1BGuy.com discussing the question thousands of H1B workers in the U.S. are currently asking. Is my H1B in status? And it really all comes down to one key component. So please check out the post and let me know if you think I'm correct. For today, I wanted to discuss an excellent article that dropped yesterday on CBSNews.com discussing the possibility of USCIS being bankrupt. I'm going to give you the highlights, but I'm also going to read some of this verbatim, so it's going to be all read under full quotation. I want to make sure the author's given full credit. The title of the article is Standoff Over Emergency Funding Leaves 13,400 Immigration Workers Facing Furlough. This was written by Camilo Montoya-Galvez for CBS News. In less than 30 days, the cash-strapped U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, will start furloughing more than 13,400 employees, nearly 70% of its workforce, unless Congress authorizes emergency funding to avoid a scenario that could cripple the nation's legal immigration system. USCIS, which administers green card applications, work permits, asylum requests, naturalization ceremonies for would-be U.S. citizens and other immigration services, has been facing an unprecedented financial crisis, which it attributes to a drastic decrease in applications during the coronavirus pandemic that deprived the fee-funded agency of its main source of revenue. Thousands of USCIS employees have already received notices of their looming furloughs, which would start on August 3rd. If that happens, the agency would be left with a skeleton crew, and that will make it difficult to sustain our critical mission of administering our nation's lawful immigration system, end quote. Joseph Edlow, Deputy Director for Policy at USCIS, and the de facto head of the agency, said in a statement to CBS News. USCIS, which is a division of the Department of Homeland Security, informed Congress of its financial woes in the middle of May, requesting $1.2 billion in emergency funding and promising to repay the funds by an imposing 10% surcharge on applications. However, in the ensuing weeks, a standoff emerged between Congress and the current administration, leaving a cloud of uncertainty hanging over the USCIS workforce and the millions of immigrants who file petitions with the agency in any given year. In May, USCIS attributed the agency's potential bankruptcy to a dramatic drop in applications during the pandemic, predicting that it would see a 61% decline in petition receipts through the end of September. An agency spokesman said receipts have slightly improved since, but noted that $1.2 billion requests to Congress remained unchanged. There is a consensus among lawmakers, congressional staff, immigration experts, and USCIS employees that the pandemic has had a large impact on the agency's operations and fee-funded model. Quote, the last 4 years, the policies of this administration and the way that they ran things pushed the agency to the very edge of a cliff, and COVID was the finger on the back that sent it over. A USCIS employee who requested anonymity to speak freely told CBS News. Other USCIS employee who requested anonymity had received a furlough notice, agreed, noting the agency recently expanded its fraud detection and national security units. Quote, to double the size of a directorate that doesn't actually perform the core function of our agency, which is to adjudicate requests for immigration benefits, is a recipe for financial disaster, the employee told CBS News. USCIS pushed back on this criticism. Quote, there is nothing in the budget or the analysis to suggest that there is any drop in our receipts that is outside historical norms based on any policy that has been implemented during this administration, a spokesman said. Quote, in fact, the second quarter of fiscal year 2020 was better by $100 million than fiscal year 2019 and far better $200 million than it was in 2016, which should illustrate just how far receipts fell in late March forward due to COVID-19. Leon Rodriguez, who led USCIS during President Barack Obama's second term, said the current situation could highlight the value of having some of the agency's offices, like those for processing asylum and refugee requests, transitioned from a fee-funded model to one appropriated by Congress, quote, because both asylum and refugee work are so bound up with U.S. foreign policy and the humanitarian and national security strategic objectives of U.S. foreign policy, it makes sense for that to be a shared investment for all of the American people, Rodriguez told CBS News. Michael Knowles, an asylum officer and president of the Union for USCIS employees in the Washington, D.C. area, said he doesn't think the American public has fully grasped the consequences of its agency's potential partial shutdown. Quote, millions of people will be affected, not just people who have yet to come to the U.S., but millions who are here, millions of workers who depend on their work permits, millions of lawful tax-paying residents who deserve to become citizens. Knowles said he's still hopeful Congress and the administration may reach a compromise before August 3rd, noting that the two branches have frequently acted at the last minute during crisis. Okay, so again, guys, I just wanted to mention Camilo. Please give him a follow at Camilo Reports for more of this really hard-hitting immigration content. I mean, I read this article and I just was, wow. I mean, that's all I can say. I'm not surprised by it. But when you think about the amount of fee-based collections that USCIS has enacted on petitioners and beneficiaries alike, it's really just hard for me to fathom that USCIS is in fact bankrupt. So, you start to think about that and questions that surround that. I mean, we're literally talking about processing hundreds of thousands of immigrant benefit requests on a monthly, yearly basis, all of which have a variety of fee-based collections that accompany almost every form that's filed to USCIS. It's crazy. So think about that. I mean, the governing agency that processes all immigration visas, H1B or otherwise, is teetering on bankruptcy and requesting a $1.2 billion bailout and willing to pay a 10% fee on top of that. Very, very scary. So guys, just wanted to mention again, don't forget to check out the new post, Is My H1B in Status, on the H1BGuy.com. As always, please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think about these videos and more content that you'd like to see in the future. Really appreciate all your support and interaction. The H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.